Good morning. Here we are, Monday, November 13th, 2023. Hopefully you have had a great week so far, early Monday morning here. It was a good weekend. A lot of football to talk to about, a lot of more pro than college. College was really interesting all day. Georgia just absolutely took care of Ole Miss. Michigan really just kind of decided we're just going to run it all the time. They didn't even throw an official pass in the second half. They threw a pass, but it was basically thrown out because of pass interference. So they did not register a pass the entire game against Penn State, and they won. I know the score was kind of close, but they pretty much dominated that game. That Penn State offense is not good against good opponents. It's really good against Maine and Massachusetts and those teams, but when they played Ohio State and Michigan, they could not do anything. And James Franklin continues to struggle against the big guys. He and Manny Diaz did a lot of talking last week, and Michigan, we'll find out today really what the story is. Well, actually, we won't find out until Friday when Jim Harbaugh, I think, has his, whatever we're calling it, his appeal or meeting with the judge or whatever it is. But basically, no Jim Harbaugh. May not have him again this week against Maryland. May not have him against Ohio State. So we'll see what happens there. Florida State hangs on to beat Miami. Ohio State wins big against Michigan State. Oregon wins big against USC. So the interesting thing is the AP poll, the Associated Press poll. There's not really any doubt out there that Georgia and Ohio State and Michigan are the three best teams. There are a few people that are putting Florida State over Michigan. There are a few people that are even putting Washington, which is undefeated, and they hung on against Utah over Michigan. It's fascinating to see how mad and pissed off people are about this whole Jim Harbaugh thing. It is absolutely crazy to see it. And people are not only aggravated and mad, but they are they're spiteful. They're kind of taking a lot of the allegations to heart, and they're truly, putting Washington and other teams above Michigan in the rankings. So we'll see what happens there as it continues to happen. Most of these things work themselves out. I don't think the loser of Ohio State Michigan is going to get in this year because there's so many other teams. You've got Washington that's undefeated. You've got Florida State, as we've talked about. You've got Alabama that's coming like a freight train. Oregon that lost to Washington at the very, very end. There's a ton of good quality teams there. So we'll see what happens. So that was kind of the world of college football. NFL football started yesterday morning with my Colts against the Patriots. 10-6, the Colts win. A big win for the Colts. The defense played really, really well. Shaquille Leonard did not. Shaquille Leonard was our all-pro, all-world linebacker, kept getting hurt, and he just looked kind of like a deer in headlights yesterday. Did not look good, did not move quick. There were a couple runs that he just got kind of ran over. So Colts win 10-6. The big news out of New England, what's going to happen? The Patriots now are 2-8. It's kind of funny with the whole Bill Belichick thing. He kind of stunk in Cleveland. He caught fire with Tom Brady, and now he kind of stinks afterwards. So I used to think it was more of a system, and Tom Brady wasn't the GOAT. But after seeing what's happening, it's something to really think about. What's New England going to do? They're 2-8. They just, I do not understand. I just don't even understand what happened. They benched Mac Jones. He went 15 of 20, 170 yards and an interception, and they were so mad at him. They brought in Zappy at the very, very end, and he does some sort of fake spike thing and threw it basically right to the Colts for an interception. It was an awful play. But the Colts get the win. They're 5-5 going to their bye. So we'll see what they do. They're in the hunt. New England is 2-8, as I mentioned, looking like they're going to get a top 5 draft pick. What do they do with Mac Jones? What do they do with the quarterbacks? He always Belichick always acted like he was the smartest guy in the room, and all of a sudden, it's not working. So we'll see what happens there in New England. Green Bay goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins 23-19. They hang on. A very, very good win for Pittsburgh. 6-3. They are on the season. Packers are 3-6. So disappointing. Love 21 of 40, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Kenny Pickett 14 of 23 for 126. Nothing crazy with this Steeler offense, but they just keep winning. They're 6-3. Second in the AFC North. They are just, their offense is so stagnant. It is so boring. There's just not a lot going on with them, but they somehow get the job done. And continue to win. Jalen Warren, 101 yards, a touchdown. A.J. Dillon, 9 carries, 70 yards. For the Packers, he has to touch the ball more. You have to run the ball more with Love as your quarterback. Saints and Vikings. Saints 19, Vikings 27. This Josh Dobbs is an amazing story. They're 6-4. Saints are 5-5. Derek Carr left with a terrible injury. It sounds like he might be back next week after the bye, but he had a concussion and got hit really hard. Josh Dobbs, 23-34, 268, and a touchdown. Looked really, really well. They did really, really good when they needed to. T.J. Hawkinson, 11 catches, 134 yards and a touchdown. So good defense by Minnesota. Keeping famous Jameis was the quarterback, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. So they forced turnovers when they needed to. Saints only had 65 rushing yards, 215 passing. So the Viking defense did a good job, and they just continue to win, right? It's amazing how they just keep winning. Texans over the Bengals 30-27. Just C.J. Stroud is amazing. He is everything as advertised. He should have been the number 1 pick. I know they had the whole Ohio State history and everything like that, but he has looked good the whole time. 5-4, they're second in the AFC South. The Bengals are 5-4. They just could not really get anything going offensively. I feel like Burrow, 27-40, 347, 2 touchdowns with 2 picks. Mixon, 11 carries for only 46 yards. I'm telling you that this Texans defense is really, really solid. The Bengals only had 66 rushing yards, and I mean the Texans had 544 total yards. So our guy Lou over there for the Bengals, their defensive coordinator, they were just getting absolutely torn up. So interesting to see where the Bengals go from here. They're still getting everybody nice and healthy. They were missing, some receivers. Their number 1 receiver, Jamar Chase, he played 5 catches, 124 yards and a touchdown. T. Higgins was out. So it's interesting to see where they go. But really the story is the Texans, Noah Brown, 7 catches, 172 yards. C.J. Stroud is just kind of doing whatever he wants right now. And it's really, really impressive. The Browns and the Ravens. The Browns went on a walk-off 33-31. The Ravens had this game under control and just kept, letting Cleveland back in it. They basically scored the last, 16 points of the game. They had a passing touchdown, a pick 6, and then a field goal to win it. So Deshaun Watson, 213, a pick and a touchdown. Lamar, 223, 2 picks and a touchdown. Jerome Ford, 107 yards rushing. Basically, it came down to this: the Browns making more plays. Amazingly, they had more rushing yards. They almost had the same passing yards, which is 200. With these 2 quarterbacks, that's unbelievable. But the defenses came to play. More turnovers. The Browns lost 2 fumbles, so really kind of a sloppy game, kind of crappy weather, and the Browns slug it out and get the win. The Titans 6, Buccaneers 20. I don't know what to say. Mayfield threw for 278 and 2 touchdowns. They had lost 4 games in a row, but they get the win here. Now they're 4-5. The Titans are 3-6. Levis was 19-39, 199 and a pick, an okay average day. Didn't really run the ball that well. They only had 42 rushing yards. The Bucs only had 77. Here's where, the Titans only had 209 total yards. So the Buccaneers defense really stepped up. They really played well. But Will Levis was hurried. He was rushed. And it was just kind of one of those things where it was a defensive battle and Baker made enough plays to get the job done. The Lions win an exciting one at LA to beat the Chargers. They are 7-2. Chargers are 4-5. A walk-off field goal. If you're a Chargers fan, you have to be disappointed. I've always thought that they were a little bit overrated. Herbert had an amazing game yesterday, 27-40, 4 touchdowns, 323. But Jared Goff, 23 of 33, 333 yards and two touchdowns and no picks. So a good game out of him. 116 yards for David Montgomery. They ran for 200 yards over this Charger defense. The Chargers did not break the 100-yard mark. 533 yards for the Lions. So a really, really good game by Detroit. They get the win, and 7-2. Motor City Dan Campbell just continues to get the job done, and it's amazing how they are just rolling right now. They do what they got to do to win, right? It's amazing. The Jared Goff's kind of had this resurrection, and good for them. Falcons, Cardinals. Cardinals won 25-23 on the return of Kyler Murray, led a game-winning drive. First game back from last year, and ACL injury last season. Tyler Heineke, 8 of 15 for 55 yards. Murray, 249 with a pick. Robinson ran for 95 for the Falcons, but 70 yards passing for the Falcons. I know that they don't trust Ritter, and I know that they don't trust Heineke, but my goodness, that was awful. Awful. If you look at their best receiver, it was Scott Miller, catch for 2 yards. I mean, come on. That in this day of age, we had 70 yards passing. Are you kidding me? Arizona didn't do much better, 230, but they did do enough to get the win. They had a walk-off field goal, just kind of a sloppy game. Let's see here. 3 sacks by the Cardinals, 2 by Arizona. Just really, really bad offense, basically. And Arizona gets the win. Commanders and Seahawks. Seahawks win on a walk-off field goal by Myers. They are 6-3. Commanders are 4-6. Sam Howell, 312, 3 touchdowns. Geno, 369 and 2 touchdowns. So a lot of good offense there. If you let's look at rushing yards, 68 for Washington. Did not get the job going, or the ball going there. Seahawks at 120. It was just one of those things where they. I'm trying to look at something. I mean, Geno just led them on a game-winning drive. They just had the ball last and kind of found some openings there in the defense. So Sam Howell actually scored with a minute left. That's what I was looking at. He scored with a minute left to take the lead, and then, to tie the game. And then Seattle came back and went down and took the victory. So the interesting thing for Washington is Sam Howell, your guy. He looks to be really, really good. So we'll see if he continues to keep them in games. At least they're in games. Before it was just going to pull out. The day America's game, as they called it, the Giants 17, the Cowboys 49, 6-3 Cowboys, 2-8 Giants. The Giants are terrible. They're awful. They can't complete a pass. Sparkley went for 66. Their defense was just getting absolutely slashed. DeVito threw for 86 yards and two touchdowns and a pick. Whew, that's awful. Dak went for 404 with 4 touchdowns and a pick. But I mean, this was just a complete bulldozing by Dallas from the very beginning. They threw for 472. Total yards 640 to 172. That Giant offense is awful. They have way too many injuries. Nobody's playing like they should. Their offensive line is just terrible. Barkley's getting a little bit of room, but not much, and that's what happens, 49-17. And then last night in Las Vegas, the Raiders 16, the Jets 12. Wilson looks good, and then he looks bad, and he threw a terrible pick at the very, very end. A great play by a middle linebacker to go get the ball. But, I mean, it was one of those things where Devontae Adams, they knew they were getting him the ball more, 6 for 86 for him. Jacobs went for 116. Hall went 13 carries for 28. I know they were getting Delvin Cook in there, but Aiden O'Connell, 153 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Wilson, 263 and a pick. I think Wilson played actually pretty decent. He played okay. He had a couple really, really good plays, a couple things where he escaped. That offensive line for the Jets is terrible. So they've somehow got to get this figured out. They're 4-5. Their season isn't over, obviously. They're still 3rd in the AFC East. They're right there in the thick of things. The Raiders are 5-5. They're 2nd in the West. There's a lot going on with those teams that are 4-5, 5-5, around there. There's a ton of them. But honestly, at the end of the day, this comes down to the Jets line just not being able to protect, not being able to run. And the Raiders, whenever they needed a first down, I feel like in that second half, whenever they needed to get going a little bit, Josh Jacobs was their guy. Zerline made a field goal with 12 minutes left. That was the last scoring, and that got it to 16-12. Before that, Aiden O'Connell threw to Mayer from Notre Dame, the tight end, with his first career touchdown. That gave them the 7-point lead, and then got down to 4, and then they held on. So seems like Aaron Rodgers might come back here next month. They're not totally out of it. I think that's all that they were kind of looking for. So an interesting game there in Vegas, but that's kind of the day that was. I mean, if you look at it, what's going to happen with Bill Belichick, what's going to happen with the Patriots. The Steelers continue to win, even though everybody being all pissed off at the offense. The Vikings put in Josh Dobbs and they win. The Texans go to Cincinnati and win. Cincinnati's a Super Bowl, a team on the brink of the Super Bowl, and they're right there. And Houston to go in and win and have Stroud just throw all over them is huge. Cleveland stays right where they need to be by going into Baltimore winning. The Buccaneers won an ugly one. San Francisco killed the Jaguars. We did not talk about that game. But San Francisco went into Jacksonville. And that Young and Bosa combination, good luck. Because they are meeting at the quarterback, and they're meeting there a lot. 59 yards rushing for Jacksonville. 162 passing. And Brock Purdy played pretty well. 296 with 3 touchdowns. McCaffrey, 95 yards. So the offense was back for San Francisco. The defense was back, and they are, they lost 3 games in a row, and everybody's wondering what was happening. Was the sky falling? And now they're 6-3. The Jaguars are 6-3. Both are still first place in their divisions. Both look like they will win their divisions, but that 49er defense was unbelievable. And Jacksonville, they're going to have to figure that out. Once they find pressure, once they play these teams with pressure, what do you do? So tonight we got Denver and Buffalo, 7-point favorite for Buffalo. There is a Manning cast on. They're playing Denver, so Peyton's a little bit more engaged there. But the Bills have not looked great. The over-under is 47.5. I am not a Russell Wilson Jr. III fan, so I'm not exactly excited to see him play. But I am excited to see the Bills. I think the Bills are a little overrated too. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. The Bills really, really need this one. They're at home. They've got to, kind of prove that they are still that upper echelon team moving forward here. But the Broncos need this one to stay out west with battle Kansas City. The Raiders appear to be coming. They've won 2 in a row. The Dolphins are obviously there for the Bills to be chasing. And let's see here. Right now they're second in the AFC East. So the Jets are struggling a little bit. The Patriots are awful. So the Bills have kind of got that second place. If they really want to take that step to get to 6-4 and stay right there within shouting distance of the Dolphins, this is a game they have to win. Broncos are 3-5. This is a really big game for them too. So we'll see what happens tonight. But so that's it, kind of in the football world. Our Pacers here locally played against Philadelphia. They got beat 126. Halliburton had 25, but Maxey for Philadelphia had 50 points. So a good game out of him. A lot of other NBA info, our games going on last night and tonight. We're not going to really touch on many of these, but Kyrie had 35 as Dallas beat New Orleans. Joker had 36 as the Nuggets lost to the Rockets. Durant had 28. They lost to the Thunder. It's just really, Curry had 38 and they lost to Minnesota. AD had 30 for the Lakers as they beat Portland. It's just really difficult to get into basketball while football is still going on. I know in Thanksgiving, that's kind of when college basketball kicks off with all the tournaments. And then in my mind, once we get to Christmas for NBA, that's when we start to look at it every day. Okay, what's going on? What are the matchups? Kind of figuring that out as the season's going on. So anyway, that's going to be it for us. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you have a great Monday. We will be back tomorrow. I'm going to try to do this about 9:30 every morning. So hopefully at 9:30 tomorrow morning, you'll see us. Let's have a little talk. The chat is open. So if you're watching this on a replay, let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know who you think's going to win tonight. We got the Bills and the Broncos. Kind of a crappy game. Not exactly looking forward to it, but we'll take it in. It's football. We're already halfway through the season, so relish these games. Enjoy it. Only 2 more college weeks left until the conference championship games. So we'll talk about that as it moves forward. But thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Have a good Monday.